It's March 3rd, 1912. You're standing outside a small, overburdened hospital in New York City. The air is thick with worry, and the desperate cries of mothers clutching their feverish children echo down the crowded street. Inside, the wards are overflowing, bed after bed filled with small bodies burning with fever, their faces marked by the telltale red rash. Nurses rush between them, their eyes weary, their movements frantic. You hear a doctor mutter under his breath as he scribbles in his notes, "Another case, another lost child." They have no cure, no real treatment, just time, prayers, and the faint hope that the stronger ones will survive. Families peer through hospital windows, held back by fear and regulations, hoping for any sign of recovery. But we all know the truth. Many won't be coming home. By the end of this year, more than 6,000 lives will be lost to the measles in the United States alone. It's a silent killer, moving through homes, schools, and entire communities unchecked. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. Welcome back to Lexicon, the show where we dissect words and phrases to uncover their true origins, debunk myths, and maybe gain a deeper understanding. I'm TJ, your guide through the bumpy, irritating, and sometimes infectious nature of the English language. And today, we're looking at a word that's been around for centuries, causing alarm, controversy, and a whole lot of itching: measles. Now, the word measles comes from Middle English measles, which in turn came from the Old French mesel, meaning leprous or afflicted with sores. But we're not stopping there. The Old French word actually traces back to the Latin misellus, a diminutive form of miser, meaning wretched or unfortunate. So linguistically speaking, measles literally means a little miserable, which, if you've ever had them, feels exactly right. This disease itself has been around for thousands of years, with descriptions going as far back as ancient Persia and India. But the name measles didn't appear in English texts until the late Middle Ages. Before that, it was often lumped in with other skin diseases, because medieval doctors were more or less just guessing. Measles has been documented in medical literature for over 1,000 years. The earliest known reference dates back to the 9th century, around 910 AD, when Persian physician Abu Bakr al-Razi, also known as Rhazes, wrote about the disease in great detail, distinguishing it from smallpox. However, it wasn't until 1757 when Scottish physician Francis Home demonstrated that measles was caused by an infectious agent in the blood, laying the groundwork for later studies on the virus. One common misconception is that measles has always been considered a mild childhood illness, but historically this disease was a serious killer. Before the introduction of the vaccine, an estimated 2.6 million deaths per year were attributed to measles worldwide. In the early 20th century, nearly 1% of the population was erased annually because of measles. With widespread outbreaks, in some cases, mortality rates reached as high as 30%, or 3 out of every 10 people in those populations that had never been exposed. It also played a key role in history. When European explorers and colonists arrived in the Americas, they brought measles and other diseases with them, devastating the indigenous populations who had no prior immunity. The same thing happened in other regions during the Age of Exploration, so in many ways, measles wasn't just a word, it was a weaponized biological force. Notably, in 1824, Hawaii's King Kamehameha II and Queen Kamamalu traveled to London to meet King George IV, but instead they swiftly contracted measles. They both died within a month, and the virus, along with several other diseases, struck Hawaii in 1848, killing up to a third of the native population. Another misconception is mistakenly associating measles with the phrase German measles, but those are actually two different diseases. German measles, which is in fact rubella, is caused by a completely different virus. The confusion comes from the similar rash-like symptoms, but they're certainly not the same thing. So if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, go ahead and flex that virology knowledge on them. A breakthrough finally came in 1954 when American microbiologist John Enders and Thomas C. Peebles, a World War II bomber pilot turned doctor, successfully isolated the measles virus in an infected 11-year-old boy named David Edmonston. This sample of the virus, later named the Edmonston strain, paved the way for the development of a vaccine. In 1963, the first ever measles vaccine was introduced, followed by an improved version in 1968. This became part of the MMR, or measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, which remains the primary method of measles prevention today. The impact of vaccination was dramatic. In the decades following the introduction of the measles vaccine, cases plummeted by over 99% in countries with widespread immunization programs. By the year 2000, measles was declared eliminated in the United States, meaning there was no continuous transmission of the disease. However, the 21st century has seen a resurgence of measles in certain regions due to declining vaccination rates. Misinformation about vaccines has fueled hesitancy, leading to outbreaks in areas where measles had previously been eradicated. The consequences of non-vaccination are severe. Recent outbreaks in Europe, in the US, and other parts of the world have resulted in preventable deaths and long-term health complications. The World Health Organization has warned that declining vaccination rates could allow measles to regain a foothold globally, reversing decades of medical progress. Beyond medicine, measles has popped up in language in some interesting ways. You may have heard something described as measly, as in a measly amount. That's directly derived from measles, because someone suffering from the disease was often described as looking weak, feeble, or miserable. So if you were to say to someone, "Oh, my salary is measly," you're basically saying it's sickly and pathetic. A fun little insult, courtesy of etymology. There's also an old saying, "as welcome as a case of the measles," and this was used popularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, shorthand for something nobody wanted around, sort of like an early version of calling someone a party pooper. And let's not forget conspiracy theories. Measles, in modern time, has become part of the vaccination debate, proving that even a word from medieval England can still be a hot topic in the 21st century. So, to sum it all up, measles comes from a Latin word meaning little miserable, which feels painfully accurate. It has a long history of devastation, both in terms of human health and global impact. The development of the vaccine turned the tide against this devastating disease, but misinformation threatens to bring it back. So the next time you hear the word measles, you'll know it's got a lot more baggage than just a rash and a fever. And the next time you hear someone reference a measly amount of something, you can let them know that they've just drawn a comparison to an infectious disease. That's it for this episode of Lexicon. If you enjoyed today's dive into linguistic history, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps the show spread. Sorry, I couldn't resist a viral pun. You can also reach out through the link in the show notes with words you'd like investigated in future episodes. Until next time, keep questioning the words around you and stay healthy out there. As always, Lexicon is written, recorded, and produced by me, your logophile companion, TJ Martin. Sources and additional info are in the show notes. Thanks for listening.